Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on how educator preparation leaders can support K-12 teacher induction. Supporting new teachers should be a collaborative commitment by many partners. It takes a village to support kids and their educators. During today's session, we will explore how educator preparation programs of all types can partner with P-12 schools and districts in the mission to better support and grow novice teachers, and we will explore the benefits and lessons of partnerships with our expert panel. Let's get started. To briefly introduce myself, I am Joe Tadlock. I'm the Director of Research and Evaluation at the Southern Regional Education Board, and I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Megan. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Boren. I'm the Director of Educator Workforce at SREB. Happy to be here with you today.
We would also like to introduce our distinguished panel today. Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Skeen, and I am the director of the Carolina Teacher Induction Program, or Carolina TIP, at the University of South Carolina College of Education.
David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is David Rock. I'm Dean of the School of Education at the University of Mississippi and a former math teacher.
And last but not least, Elizabeth.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Hodge. I'm a professor in the Department of Educational Leadership and Foundations, and I also serve as the lead administrator of the North Carolina New Teacher Support Program.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So first, we wanted to share a little bit of context. At SREB, we work across the entire educator workforce span to support our teachers, our school leaders in their missions to serve children. And today's webinar, we're really going to focus in on investing in our students through that investment in our educators, from preparation, transitioning into their jobs, from day one readiness all the way through to being supported, and feel like there are many arms wrapped around them those first few years on the job. If I can get my screen to work, here we go. At SREB, we work across the board to support educator workforce from the preparation days and early recruitment on into looking at growth and supports for our educators through multiple channels. We also look through the policy lens of licensure, career advancement, strategic staffing, and on into additional pieces which are also important to support the educator workforce: compensation packages, incentives, and working conditions. You can see here on the slide, there are lots of various pieces that go inside of this. Today, and throughout the series of these webinars, we've been focusing in mostly on the professional support box in the top right. But today we're going to talk a little bit about how the pathways in preparation works and feeds into the professional supports, and how we can build more comprehensive services for educators as they transition. To show just a glimpse of one piece of data from our region, this slide shows you some preparation data. You can see in the Southeast states, in the tiny little map in the corner, are 16 states that is served by the Southern Regional Education Board. We're down by 25% in total teacher preparation program completers over the last decade. This data, of course, lags a few years, but the trend is very concerning, and we don't see much improvement in the very near future, with some early data that comes out from 23-24. You can also see on the right that it's shifting a little bit in the types of programs that most new teachers are entering. We now have a little less than 2/3 of new educators entering through traditional programs. Alternative programs, or non-traditional programs, as it's also referred to in some circles, are increasing. We do also see the age of new teachers increasing as well, even from traditional paths. And currently in the Southeast, the average new teacher is about 29 to 30 years old. So we have a new kind of population, so to speak, coming into the early educator workforce. At SREB, we've been trying to study a little bit about this, looking at the research from around the country, but also conducting our own research in partnership with Vanderbilt University and the Tennessee Education Research Alliance housed there. One of our studies looked at Gen Z and their interest or lack thereof in the teaching profession. You can see here, just with the trend of this chart, the interest of high school students in our region has been trending down as reported through ACT surveys. On the right here, you can see a short list of what Gen Z, on average, the general, Gen Zer, is typically looking like and wanting in their career. They are the tech-savvy generation, having grown up with technology in their lives from the start. They're a more diverse group of students and young adults, racially, ethnically, as well as their income backgrounds. More reporting mental health needs and wanting supports on that front throughout their education as well as into their career. And then they're also looking for really supportive, positive environments with flexibility, work-life balance, mentorships, collaboration with colleagues, and a sense of purpose. All of this is relevant when we're thinking about our early career teachers today. We furthered this research with an additional study on new teachers of all generations, their pathways into the profession, and the effects on retention. This study showed us that while the trends that I just mentioned are occurring, non-traditional pathways are helping to diversify our educator workforce, and they're helping to bring in much needed teachers in certain areas of our region and our nation, but they're not always preparing our early career educators as well as they could. And also we see a troubling trend that our traditional preparation programs are not always providing the full and complete preparation that their early career teachers are seeking. Many are coming in feeling unready and feeling unsupported. They feel a work-life imbalance, and that's starting early, even in their preparation days. It's fueling burnout and stress. And many are reporting that they're actually seeing less support than colleagues of similar, years of service, early years of service from previous years. This study also helped to highlight that retention is affected by pathways and the preparation. It's also affected by the supports that students are receiving from the early days in preparation, as well as supports they receive those first 1 to 3 years on the job. This graph shows a picture into data from Tennessee, and a similar trend occurred from data in Kentucky, which are the two states we used in these studies. And it shows that the risk for novice teacher turnover is increasing with certain conditions. These conditions include their pathway into the profession, as you can see by the data on the right, but even when controlling for other characteristics around individuals and schools, these trends proved true. We also saw in this study that teacher retention increases when teachers are less effective or less prepared for the job, when they come in with starting salaries that are lower, as well as the type of school that they enter. A secondary school has an increased risk of attrition. We also found that teaching in low income or high poverty schools has a higher risk of attrition, as well as teaching in high needs schools. All of these factors are things that we can consider when we're looking at supports for our early career teachers, the different types of conditions that they're coming into, as well as their own background, experience, and preparation. At SREB, we prepared some work around this to help really find solutions, support districts and school leaders in better supports for our early career teachers. We've produced the SREB Teacher Induction Framework. And if you've attended any of the previous webinars, you've heard a bit about this framework, and you've heard some about how schools and district leaders can receive some guidance and support around these pieces. And then today, we're also going to talk about the work of partnership with EPPs and how they can work with districts to provide all of this support system around our leaders, our mentor and advanced career teachers, our early career teachers, and just great professional learning all around. We're seeking to help provide our schools, our districts, and all of their partners to rise through this continuum of support, moving toward problem-driven and people-driven support for our early career teachers, as well as the mentors and leaders that serve them. When we think about bringing preparation programs into the mix, preparation programs and school districts can partner together to offer all sorts of services to schools and early career teachers, as well as the mentors and leaders that serve them. They can help to provide coaching, instructional leadership guides, mentoring, learning, and coaching supports throughout the life cycle of preparation and on into the first few years. We also conducted several years ago a teacher preparation commission, and it produced 4 recommendations that I think are still relevant, even though this occurred before COVID and is about 7 years old now. You'll see at the bottom right, one of the top 4 recommendations was to really encourage and help feed partnerships between teacher preparation programs in K-12 districts. And this still rings true today and is, of course, the topic of our webinar. It has many benefits to have these partnerships together, from intentional collaboration, exchange of data and resources, aligning goals, diversifying support, but ultimately increasing the positive outcomes of our schools. So with that introduction and context setting, I'm going to turn to our panelists and ask them if they'll be so kind as to share a bit about their backgrounds and programs and the services that each of them are working to provide in partnership with K-12 schools. So we'll start with Ms. Skeen and the Carolina TIP program at the University of South Carolina. We'll move to Dr. Hodge and the North Carolina New Teacher Support Program. And lastly, we'll have a bit about the National Center for School and University Partnerships at the University of Mississippi with Dr. Rock. Nicole, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Megan. Happy to be here to share a little bit about Carolina TIP and what we do. So the Carolina Teacher Induction Program is a university-based induction and retention program based out of the College of Education at the University of South Carolina. And Carolina TIP provides an added layer of support for new teachers, novice teachers within the first 3 years of their profession, with the goal of positively impacting new teacher retention. The program launched in 2017, so we are now in our 9th year, and thrilled with the growth that we are seeing and the results and impact that we are seeing. The program launched with 1 coach and 15 teachers in 9 schools in 2017-2018 school year. And I'm thrilled to share that we are now serving over 304 teachers across 17 districts and I believe it's close now to over 250 schools in South Carolina. We have our major focus right now is in the Midlands region, which is where the program was originally built. So in the background and the backyard of USC, where we already had deep established partnerships with our local districts, and is now has created a footprint in the PD region of the state. And so we just launched our 2nd cohort of teachers in the PD region, and we are learning a lot as we move out of our backyard and into the PD region, and thrilled to not only with what we're learning, but to be able to serve and support that area. And so TIP provides, the program started with the intention of serving our University of South Carolina alumni, so graduates of the College of Education. And within the first 2-3 years of the program, we were receiving feedback from our districts asking if we could provide the kind of support that we provided in Carolina Tip to their other novice teachers. And we had to say not yet for a few years. And it was very exciting when we were able to go back and say, absolutely, we're ready to pilot what this program looks like and to test the universality of the program beyond our own graduates. We now serve not only our graduates through the Carolina Tip Alumni Promise, we are also serving teachers from over 30 other institutions of higher education and colleges, and more than 5 alternative certification pathways. And we'll be able to talk a little bit at the end about impact, but sneak preview, we've been very happy with the results that the program and the components of the program do seem to be universal in nature and impact. And so just a few other quick things. I don't want to take up too much time. A few other quick things about the program and what makes Carolina Tip unique and how we operate is that Carolina Tip provides supplemental support above what South Carolina teachers receive in induction from their districts. In South Carolina, there are regulations and statutes in place that all teachers must receive certain layers of induction support for their districts. Carolina Tip is an added layer above and beyond those mandates. And what we found is that the districts, while they are able to provide the local support that teachers need to be successful in that particular school and in that particular district, while Carolina Tip is focusing on kind of the universal, comprehensive support, it is the combination of those two working together. So the partnership of those two things that's yielding the kind of results and impact that we are seeing. And so Carolina Tip, one of the differences there is Carolina Tip is 100% teacher focused. And so it's very odd in education sometimes to say that we don't really focus on instructional strategies. And it seemed a bit of a revolutionary idea when we first got started, is that we would focus on the teachers. And it reminds me of the title of the book a few years ago. I believe it was in the early 2000s. If you don't feed the teachers, they'll eat the students. And so it seems to be kind of the basis of what we do. That's the simplest way to describe what we do in Carolina Tip. And so this kind of teacher focused supplemental support responsive to the needs of the teacher. So serving the human that is also showing up as a teacher is yielding a few things across. We can look at specific retention and impact data numbers in a bit, but a few things for now is that we are seeing it provides an increased capacity for our partner districts. And so as a former induction coordinator and professional development leader in one of the larger districts in South Carolina, I was often frustrated by the restraints of time and resources and money. And so we are able to come in partnership and expand the capacity of our districts to provide comprehensive support for their teachers, support that we know they want to provide with more time, resources, and money. So we're glad to see that partnership is resulting in that comprehensive support. Carolina Tip also works as a bit of an equalizer, that while there are mandates in place, not only in South Carolina, but in other states across the region for induction support, we do know that they can vary wildly and widely between from district to district, depending on resources, capacity, and what they have at their disposal. And so being able to add this layer of support can work as an equalizer to make sure that all teachers across South Carolina are receiving the kind of support that they need to be successful as novice educators. And we're also finding a few years in, recognizing that one of the key elements beyond the partnership of the district and the program working together to provide support is that we're recognizing that there might be a key to kind of unlocking the teacher retention or increasing teacher retention being found in addressing teacher self-efficacy. And so that is a major component of what we do and what the Carolina coaching model is built upon. And I look forward to answering questions and sharing some more data impacts with you later. Thank you.
Thanks for that intro. Dr. Hodge, we'll turn to you to intro us a little bit about the North Carolina Teacher Support Program.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me today. So in 2011, the North Carolina New Teacher Support Program was conceived through funding received from Race to the Top. And over the past 14 years, the goal has been to strengthen the development of novice teachers in the state's lowest performing schools. So as you can see here on the slide, we work in partnership with over 83 school districts, over 691 schools, in partnership with 11 IHEs in the UNC system to provide Instructional Skills Institute, our professional development, and individualized instructional coaching to over 1,200 teachers annually. So it's a bit unique in the fact that it's a statewide initiative that is led by the program office at East Carolina University in partnership with those 11 institutions. The new teacher support program is designed to support the beginning teachers and schools aligned to improving student achievement. So slightly different, with a focus on student achievement, teacher efficacy, teacher effectiveness, and then retention of beginning teachers. In addition, I think what also makes us unique is how we're centered across the state. It allows us to inform educator preparation programs around their curriculum and instructional practices. In addition to that, we also inform state organizations and different policy initiatives. And so it really has us seated centrally in the sense of being able to inform multiple stakeholders across the state. And that's just, I guess, a general overview of the initiative. I know we're going to get into the different types of instructional coaching that's provided in maybe the next slide or so.
Thank you for that intro. Dr. Rock, will turn to you in the National Center.
Thank you, Megan. Again, my name is David Rock. I'm Dean of the School of Education at the University of Mississippi. We were fortunate to participate in 2017 in the iLead network, which was created by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. At that time, the goal was to bring 13 partnerships together to work collectively to see how universities, EPPs, and school districts could work together to improve student outcomes. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm a dean of a school of education. We tend to think we do that all the time. But at the end of the day, what really happens is, unfortunately, at times, the university tells the school district exactly what to do and what to accomplish based on the research that we do. So for the first time, we all came together and decided to say, really, what can we do to actually help support school districts and schools in some of the challenging areas that they need to address for student outcomes? So we formed 13 partnerships across the entire nation. And as Carnegie does a lot, as the success grows in some of those activities, they offshoot these into other areas so that they can continue based on their own funding. So we did form the National Center for School University Partnerships in 2023 based on this iLead network. We currently have membership and partnerships across the entire nation and also specifically in the South. And our goal is to improve student outcomes. What we're doing right now is using improvement science to work collectively to address certain problems of practice across the nation. Two significant problems of practice that we have worked on in the last 2 years through breakthrough collaboratives are chronic absenteeism across the entire nation and also in Mississippi, as well as increasing math proficiency for children with special needs, specifically the children at the bottom 25%. We've seen significant improvement so far. More importantly, the area of chronic absenteeism, as many of us know, even since COVID, is not changing as much as we like or as rapidly as we like. So we're trying to work across multiple partnerships to share across the entire nation how we can actually seek improvement. As we all know, with our improvement work, we're all different. And that's something that we've really, I think, shared across our partnerships right now, that every school district's not the same. We're working with school districts with 350,000 students and some school districts that have 1,200 students. So with that being said, we hope that in the next month, when we have our first National Improvement Summit in Nashville, Tennessee in November, that we can actually bring people together to see how we're using improvement science across a variety of networks and a variety of partnerships. And the last piece that I want to share is that while the iLeague network started with a university to school district partnership, what we have found in all of our research is that doesn't have to be the only type of partnership. It could be school district to school district partnership. It can be university to university partnership. That's something we typically don't do. We're collaborative as universities to actually improve student outcomes. It could also be across all kinds of networks of schools, universities, and even 3 different partnerships. So we're trying to bring people together to accomplish some of the same student outcomes that we hope across the entire nation. Last piece about coming to this summit, and we also hope that we can come up with additional problems of practice that we can work together and show people how to use improvement science to actually drill all the way down inside classrooms so that we can meet the needs of all of our students. And I'll stop right there and I'll share more a little bit later as well.
Thank you for those intros. As hopefully our audience can see, we have many different perspectives, backgrounds, and aspects to add to this conversation about partnerships, about supports, and about ultimately you moving the needle on supporting our educator workforce and our student outcomes. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Joe, who will be leading our discussion today with the panelists.
Okay, so the first question that we would like to touch on is in fact regard to partnerships. And we would like to hear from each of you regarding what a strong partnership with K-12 districts looks like. David, why don't we start with you since you were just talking about partnerships?
Well, one thing I can definitely tell you right now that we know for strong partnerships, leaders have to be involved. Teachers, faculty, we need support from our leaders. When our top level leaders have not been involved in the work, some of those partnerships seem to not be as strong and dissolve a little bit quicker than others. When our leaders are involved, for example, myself, when I'm participating in those activities all the way inside the schools and in school districts, our faculty come along. The same with a school, when the principal's involved, when the superintendent's involved, it's not just another thing we push down into a classroom. It becomes a true partnership because they see that our leaders are on the ground working every single day to improve student outcomes. So strong partnership, number one, leaders need to be hands-on in this process.
Elizabeth, is there anything you would like to add from your perspective?
So from our perspective with new teacher support program, really in combination with what Dr. Rock is sharing is we believe that communication, building relationships, trust is essential, particularly when you're going into schools and working with beginning teachers, as well as establishing that at the higher level with leadership. So for our organization, we developed a partnership engagement plan where we have built in and mapped out quarterly and monthly where we connect. We have connecting points, not only with our school leaders, with our teachers, with the BT coordinators, so that we begin kind of with that needs assessment and understanding to Dr. Rock's point about what are the needs at that specific school, and what are the needs of that specific teacher. And then we built in layers of goal setting and different aspects that are a full cycle so that we're not only understanding and listening, but also then providing data back on what we have found at the end of the year. So we have different meetings throughout the year to really engage our partners as a collaborative effort to support our teachers.
Nicole, how does Carolina Tip form strong partnerships with K-12 districts?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, Joe. Carolina Tip. So it started from the very inception of the program of working together to answer a question instead of going in with an answer. And so just asking the simple question, what do, teacher retention, especially among our novice educators, as was clearly, y'all did a wonderful job of showing that in the first few webinars, was a unique issue. And so going in and just asking the questions, what do teachers need differently from what they are already receiving? And what do, part of that, so not going in with an answer, but going in, meeting with district leaders, meeting with school leaders, of course, meeting with and getting the responses from teachers, and then taking those collective answers and sitting at the table together in collaboration and saying, okay, how do we best do this? We understand the limits that are on our school leaders, our schools, our districts as far as resources, time, and capacity. And so going in as we're building this program and saying, okay, this is what we want to have. We understand you're doing this part and you're at capacity. What can we do? And then co-identifying a void in support. And then being able to say, okay, how do we help us figure out the best way to fill that void in support? And so that is truly the basis from that kind of 1-2 coming together, the local support from the districts, and then the added layer of support from the program coming together was done in collaboration from the first moment. And I think what Elizabeth said, Dr. Hodge said, about trust is essential. And not only in building trust in assuming the best interest in working together there, but also we have to trust we don't get in the lane of what the district is doing in their induction program, and they, I hate to say, kind of say, we trust y'all and we don't get in the lane of what you're doing when you're working on the support you're doing with teachers. We trust you to do your part. And it's been incredible to watch the relationships and conversations grow out of that foundation of professional trust and respect to the point that we are able to have a feedback loop, pretty continuous feedback loop at this point, where districts now come and say, okay, we know you're not doing district induction, but we're hearing some of these things. Can we work together? Could we get some feedback? Could we send a meeting to brainstorm maybe how to improve induction practices in our district? And we are absolutely setting the same thing up with, where we're pulling in our district leaders. We have, formal district collaboration meetings, but we have collaboration meetings all the time saying, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're hearing from teachers. What is your feedback? So built on trust and trust, professional respect, and a strong feedback loop.
Well, Nicole, you've teed up our second discussion question quite well. So we wanted to ask about how you meet schools where they are and how do you complement what they are already doing. So from Carolina Tip's position and your perspective, how do you go about complementing what schools are already doing for their induction teachers?
Well, I think I unintentionally, you're right, set that up pretty perfectly. So I'll just continue on there. And so we know, and in looking, hearing from districts, it's communication, collaboration, and having that. So we are able to meet and talking with our districts to find out where are remaining voids of support, to continue with what I was saying earlier. How can we work together to identify those, and making sure that our teachers are also in the feedback loop there. Dr. Hodge said earlier, I loved what she said about using the feedback and what they're learning from the program in North Carolina to inform EPP programs. And so setting up some of those same feedback loops with that include our teachers, the teachers informing the program and the districts informing the program, and back and forth to make sure the simplest answer would be to make sure we're not duplicating efforts. And so to make sure that we are identifying and addressing and focusing on the void of support, and not overwhelming new teacher support capacity, which can be a limiting factor in being able to support, develop, and grow teachers.
Dr. Rock, is there anything you would like to add about how your university is complementing what schools are providing?
Yeah, I can't, I have to echo what Nicole said. First of all, not going in with a solution and not coming in there and telling, again, having an answer before you get there is so critical. At the end, if you're going to work collaboratively to actually solve some of these issues and support teacher induction, you can't go into every single school and tell them, here's what you need to do, because it doesn't work in every single school. But doing it together and sitting down at the table and working to meet the needs of that particular school It's critical, just like it is inside a school, to meet the needs of every teacher inside one specific classroom is a huge accomplishment, and not try to do something for the entire district of 800 teachers is also an accomplishment. So I think we have to practice what we preach. I think that's number one. Especially when you look at improvement. Improvement science is based on user input. Without the user input, without actually doing some of those empathy interviews and finding out what's truly needed, we can't make the improvement that we truly want to make. So, Nicole, I have to echo what you're saying. You really need to sit down at the table, not come in with a predisposed action plan to tell a school district or a school how you're going to handle induction, because it's going to be different. Rural, urban, every single school district, A district, D district. One is not better than the other. It depends on what's going to actually fit in that school, and that's what we've learned.
Dr. Hodge, I'd love to hear your perspective from running the North Carolina New Teacher Program.
Well, truly, they both queued me up for the favorite term in my statewide program, which is context matters. And that is something that is said every time our statewide organization comes together, because we are spread across the state, just as Dr. Rock said, right? Each region, urban, rural, all of that matters. The different types of school districts and who they're serving matters. And so really having that seat at the table, I'm just going to kind of reinforce what has been stated, but having a seat at the table and having, our instructional coaches help us to inform our regional directors that they're meeting with the school districts locally. But the other piece I think that is unique for us is because we are a statewide initiative. We work together with the Department of Public Instruction and helping inform their beginning teacher support policy and their handbooks. We also we work with the RESAs, which are the regional directors that support teachers across the state. And also in terms of presenting at like the State Board of Education to inform policy initiatives. And so because the work we do is widespread, I think that gives us a unique opportunity to also share some of our findings beyond just working with our EPPs. And I appreciate you brought up the student-centered coaching. This is part of our model, that it works in combination. I don't know if that was your point in sharing it, but we do use a combination of our coaching framework and our student-centered coaching, so that we combine them both so that they're really informing one with the other, so that we can not only improve the teacher's practice, efficacy, and effectiveness, but also in terms of improving student achievement.
Dr. Hodge, can you talk to us a little bit about the feedback loops that exist between your program and the early career teachers in North Carolina?
Absolutely. So for our program with our instructional coaches, they have coaching cycles. And so there are ongoing cycles that are run throughout the entire year. We do try and work with beginning teachers in their first 3 years. So the goal is that we're supporting them for 3 consecutive years, because there is such a high need and so many beginning novice teachers out there. Oftentimes we can support them for about 2 years before we're moving. A school district says, I really need you to work with this group. And so generally we support and have that cycle that lasts for 2 years. In addition to that, we also support the North Carolina Teaching Fellows. And so there are additional metrics that are built in there where we're engaging in constant conversations and offering different types of activities that support that group as well.
Dr. Rock, you mentioned the importance of feedback loops. Can you talk about the feedback loops that exist within your program?
Absolutely. Again, I can't stress enough that you need to have those leaders involved at the table, and also the user, which are those teachers, at the table. If you are not willing to take that feedback from your constituents, your teachers who typically a lot of times come from your program, then I just don't think you're going to have an effective program outcome that you really want. So I think number one, you want to have those people involved as your clinical supervisors out in the field. We need to have those people involved, and we need to take that feedback directly from them. If you are nationally accredited, you're typically going to have to do that anyway, and you should be doing that. So at the National Center for School University Partnerships, we work directly with classroom teachers right now to get that feedback so we can improve our processes, and not only that, improve our programs. Our improvement on math proficiency is coming directly from teachers and their input on how we can actually work with students with special needs across multiple school districts so we can make a significant impact. In the state of Mississippi, we've seen significant improvement on math proficiency, not just with children with special needs, but just with children in grades 3, 4, and 5 right now because of the willingness for us to listen to that individual classroom teacher. The positive aspect is we collect all of this together. We get the input from across multiple school districts, and then we come together at multiple convenings to share across districts so they can get their ideas. And then we bring schools together to work together and teachers to work together so they can make an impact inside their own classrooms. So once again, it's not simply the EPP telling. It actually can be school district to school district and school to school across, especially rural regions like in South Carolina and North Carolina. We have such vast different schools and they need support from each other. So I think that's one thing that anybody, if they're really listening to us right now, try to get schools to schools working together and not competing.
Well, Nicole, I think that sets you up nicely. You have schools across the state of South Carolina, rural, suburban, urban. How do you keep those feedback loops open?
So while Carolina Tech was developed and continues to be refined in collaboration with our districts, deep collaboration with our districts, the design of the program is intentionally that while we partner with school districts on this added layer of induction and retention support, we work in parallel. And so that, well, again, the district focusing on that local support that the teacher needs to be successful in that school and in that district, while Carolina Tip providing more of kind of the universal teacher focused support, responsive support for the teacher to focus on what they need to develop as a human who is also a teacher and to develop in their profession. And so our most vital feedback loop, the trust, all of the things with the district are absolutely crucial to the success of the program. Our most vital feedback loop within Carolina Tip is our feedback loop with our teachers. And so there are multiple facets for doing that, whether, it's between receiving feedback in their individual coaching sessions and hearing from their coaches, whether it is informal feedback that we receive in our Carolina Tip teacher sessions where we are bringing, all of the year one Midlands teachers together for a session, all of the year one set teachers in the PD together for one of the Tip teacher sessions. So a lot of informal feedback there that we're able to get. And then we also have formal structure. So I'm sure this will be mentioned in a moment, but we do a pretty extensive external program evaluation. And so our program evaluators have formal structures from focus groups to surveys to individual interviews that they do with the teachers. And one of the things I'm most proud of with but not just our team, but with the leadership of the College of Education is the space that we are given and the dedication to remaining responsive to the feedback that we're receiving. That we make sure that we do not get stale in thinking that we've been doing this for 9 years, amazing results, hurrah, let's celebrate. And let's never rest and think that we have found the answer. We need to continue to adapt and be responsive to the needs of our teachers, and as well, of course, that it means for our districts and for our stakeholders.
Well, speaking of those program evaluations, Nicole, how has, I should say, the Carolina Tip program improved teacher retention or confidence?
Well, it's interesting the metrics that we measure. So I mentioned earlier that our ultimate goal in Carolina Tip is to positively impact new teacher retention. So teacher retention among novice educators. And so that's a bit of a different lens in looking at improving teacher efficacy, improving teacher best practices. So that is very much what we mean when we say kind of laser focused on the teacher as they transition, from learning how to teach and lead in a classroom to actually doing it on their own. And so some of the metrics that we look at in Carolina Tip, our ultimate metric is the annual year-to-year professional retention rate. But in looking at the kind of research-based and of course most importantly teacher-identified areas and factors for teacher attrition, we landed on three smaller outcomes, or sub outcomes that we were going to both target in our support as well as measure. And those were self-efficacy. And so it's very important that we are measuring teacher efficacy when we are looking for the outcome of improved student achievement. We are discovering that when looking at targeting specifically new teacher retention, that how they feel about their ability to do their job is vital to their ability to do their job. And so self-efficacy is being one of the leading components. It's what our Carolina coaching model is built on, is our sessions and all of the components of the program is built on and towards. And so looking at and measuring their self-efficacy. The second subcategory and vehicle that we use is navigating the demands of the job. So it's targeting the stress coping, increased capacity to navigate the demands of the job, balance all the things they have to do, and increasing their stress coping mechanisms as well as their stress coping tolerance. And so the third sub goal or sub outcome that we look at and measure is job satisfaction. And what we are finding is that we as a program do not have any sway over changing anything about their job or their school or their district or legislation. But what we target is about how they feel and how they are able to navigate those things and how they are able to mitigate the impact that that has on the teacher so that they can successfully show up as the professional in the classroom each day. And so what we're finding is that and we do owe our teachers overwhelmingly report increased self-efficacy as a result of participating in the program, increased stress coping and ability to navigate stress. And we're finding that those combination is leading to increased job satisfaction, which lo and behold, increases new teacher retention. So meeting our ultimate outcome there. So those would be some of the innovation and there is really targeted or is really aimed at and rest on, I think, I would say self-efficacy and targeting that and making that the primary thing that we are working on with our teachers and have been pleasantly surprised at what that does seem to unlock in our teachers, and then how that ripple effect goes out to more, teachers with increased hope, confidence, and capacity have students with increased hope, confidence, and capacity. So, students may not be, and student achievement may not be our ultimate outcome that we're looking for, but we do know that teachers with the self-efficacy and the confidence and increased capacity to navigate all the demands of the job do show up as better teachers for their students.
Dr. Rock, is there anything you'd like to add about the work that's happening at your university?
As Nicole was talking about this too, job satisfaction obviously is crucial, especially for our new teachers. And one thing we have found is that, as we all know, time is an issue. Behavior in schools is an issue too for some of those new teachers, behavior management, but time is an issue. So when you ask a new teacher to attend professional development, another workshop, a training, what we have found, the feedback from them right now is that when they see their leaders and their principals and some of the senior level teachers in their school participating with them and actively using some of the work, especially like we're talking about improvement science tools and framework, when they see the principal actually using the exact same framework and they're doing the hands-on activities with them, their satisfaction increases. They feel supported. But when they're told to go do something else, another thing, and there isn't other additional support, or those leaders aren't there with them, they're trying to figure out how they can fit all that with respect to time management inside their teaching. So the big feedback is when our faculty, when our leaders are with us doing the same exact work and they're showing us how it's impacting student outcomes, they feel better about their job and they feel more supported, which is helping student teacher retention.
Dr. Hodge, I believe your program has seen some important retention results. Would you like to elaborate? Oh, you're muted, Dr. Hodge.
That's what you get, right? Got excited there with the cue. Obviously I echo everything that's been shared. Our focus has been on teacher retention and teacher self-efficacy as well. We have really hovered between the 89 to 92 percentile in terms of retention. But I think to all the panelists' point is you also have to bring it down to the local level. And what we really also value is the goal setting and reflective practices amongst the teachers that really informs, how they're feeling about not only their confidence, their job satisfaction, their ability to lead at the school. And so although, at a higher level, at the program level, we're looking at the retention, we're also really interested in what matters most to that individual teacher. Along those lines, something that sounds similar to others is looking at their health and well-being. Of course, we had a lot of shifts during the pandemic where we learned a great deal of things, and health and well-being became a priority for a period of time. And, I guess, to the point made about having your leader and seeing your leader model, having those teachers model that for their students was also found really valuable within our program.
Thank you so much. Megan is going to spotlight impact and innovation now.
So we'd love for you guys to take about a minute to two each and just give the audience one spotlight on something that you feel is innovative or highly impactful about the work that you, your programs, and your colleagues are doing. So Dr. Rock, we're going to start with you.
One exciting program that we have implemented that is very different from any other place is the Mississippi Excellence in Teaching program. We were told years ago that our students, that we had some of the highest exit GPAs, but the lowest ACT scores, and we couldn't recruit some of the best and brightest in high school actually to become teachers. So we implemented a program through some grant funding to recruit and retain the top performing high school students into a program that would ensure that they would teach for at least 5 years in the state of Mississippi. How do we do this? We provided a full cost of attendance scholarship, everything from room, board, tuition, study abroad, everything you can imagine to attract and retain an average ACT of 30 and an average high school GPA of 4.0. And we were told we couldn't do it. And right now we have approximately 135 students enrolled in this program every single year. Our retention rate is 92% because we're showing value to the profession. We have parents that are crying when they find out their entire child's tuition and everything is paid for. But more importantly, we have students that were in high school that actually considered the field of education, but were told not to become teachers because they couldn't afford to do it. And now they're coming into the profession for the first time. They're excited. The other thing that I would stress about this program, besides the fact that it's full cost of attendance, and yes, we do have a 92% retention rate, which is great for the last 6 to 7 years, is that we are also, and we have implemented a program where every single student who enters as a freshman starts clinical practice the very first semester they come in. And as we know that from all of our surveys and everything else, from schools to those students, that is impacting their career as much as anything else. Clinical practice as early as possible. The problem we have is that with a 120 credit mandate from some of our states, we don't always have the ability to get some of the traditional programs in. So one thing we have found out is the earlier we can get a student in, especially in the freshman year, the greater the retention is on the backside and their success while they're in college. More information about that, that's metp@olemiss.edu. Please let us know. I'm glad to help you try to start a program like this. It is truly impactful, and we have quite a few high school graduates that would love to become teachers if they could afford to become teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. That is emotional and inspirational, all in a nice little 2-minute package. Dr. Hodge, I'm going to turn to you. An innovation or impact spotlight you'd like to make.
Absolutely. So I'm going to build on what really Dr. Rock shared earlier around improvement science. So with our organization, we kind of modeled a research practice partnership out of something that was done at the state level, where we worked with our school district partners to really solve a problem of practice. And so we provided funding to the school districts and to the universities to engage in this kind of improvement science process to really investigate something at the local level. And so we've had 5 RPPs in the past 3 years. The first one being on mental health and well-being. Then we also had learning exchanges with 45 school districts to engage in those conversations and kind of teach them about improvement science and understand the problems that they were dealing with at the local level. We also focused in on residency model, and that's something we've talked a lot about in this session yet, but those alternative pathways, Megan, that you shared about, that is a large increase in North Carolina compared to traditionally prepared students that are going into the teaching profession. And so we had researchers work with a school district partner that really wanted to understand the differences in terms of the preparation program. And our residency model is that alternative pathway. And then we have the Brave Scholars, which is an additional initiative that has just begun this year. And then we're in our second year of artificial intelligence coaching, where we're working with several different school districts. We've got, 6 school districts, 10 instructional coaches, and over 120 beginning teachers that are working with artificial intelligence. And this one really was generated by school district leaders that were interested in learning more about AI and how it could help teachers become more confident and more effective in the schools.
Thank you. And Ms. Skeen, you drew the short stick, I think, here. So you get about 60 seconds to hit us with your innovation.
Here we go. I'm going to run. So we know the landscape of teachers coming into the profession is changing and continuing to change. We've talked about an increase in alt-cert teachers and alt-cert alternative pathways into the profession. And so two things I would highlight with the program is one, once the program had developed and tested the model with the known entity of our own graduates and our own alumni, the universality of that transferring to our non-USC teachers. So, and seeing in particular, even marginally higher rates of professional retention among the teachers participating in Carolina TIP in alternative certification pathways. And so as we continue to be responsive to not just the needs of the teachers, but the needs of our partner districts, Carolina TIP is currently partnering with a district who's created in South Carolina. They are able to create a district led alternative certification pathway that's approved by the state, and we are thrilled to be partnering with one of our districts in helping to increase the capacity and add some of the teacher support for that district alternative certification program. So very excited to see what will come out of that, and so what we will learn from that experience. Thank you for your time.
Thank you guys, all three of you, so much for being a part of the webinar today and all of the great information that you gave to our audience. We will be sharing these slides for those of you in the audience who would like to be able to click on links and dive in deeper in these QR codes, but missed the chance to in the last hour. So you can find those on our website. Hopefully you took away that support is such a huge word with so many things underneath, in and around it, but it really has a huge impact for our teachers, our students, our schools. Partnerships are key to that, as our panelists very well demonstrated. We have one more webinar in our series next week. Join us same time, same place, and we'll be talking about the policy aspects, levers, carrots and sticks that we can affect some change in the support, induction, mentorship, and systematic changes for our early career, as well as other educators surrounding our early career teachers. Also, a plug for our large conference every summer. In next year, we'll be in Nashville, our Making Schools Work Conference, which brings together K-12 schools, as well as we're bringing in more and more higher education partners. So encourage everyone to check that out. We have tons of resources online, and you can find all the things we mentioned today, plus more at these addresses. If you'd like to reach out, myself and my co-chair of the Internal Educator Workforce Steering Committee, Amanda Merritt, we're happy to answer questions or connect you to any of our colleagues, any of our panelists on these webinars, or other experts around the country. Thank you guys so much for the time today, your participation, and we really appreciate it. And we'll see you hopefully again next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.